The Richest Man in Babylon Part 9. The luckiest man in Babylon at the head of his caravan, proudly rode Sharu-Nada, the merchant prince of Babylon. He liked any cloth and wore rich and becoming robes. He liked any animals and sat easily upon his spirited Arabian stallion. To look at him one would hardly have guessed his advanced years. Certainly they would not have suspected that he was inwardly troubled. The journey from Damascus is long, and the hardships of the desert many. These he minded not. The Arab tribes are averse and eager to loot rich caravans. These he feared not, for his many mounted guards were a safe protection about the youth at his side, whom he was bringing from Damascus. Was he disturbed? This was Hardan Gula, the grandson of his partner of other years, Arad Gula, to whom he felt he owed a debt of gratitude which could never be repaid. He would like to do something for this grandson, but the more he considered this, the more difficult it seemed. Because of the youth himself. Eyeing the young man's rings and earrings, he thought to himself, and quote, he thinks jewels are for men. Still he has his grandfather's strong face. But his grandfather wore no such gaudy robes. Yet, I sought him to come, hoping I might help him get a start for himself and get away from the wreck his father has made of their inheritance. And quote, Hardan Gula broke in upon his thoughts, and quote, why dost thou work so hard, riding always with thy caravan upon its long journeys? Dost thou never take time to enjoy life? And quote, Sharu-Nada smiled. And quote, to enjoy life, and quote, he repeated. And quote, what wouldst thou do to enjoy life if thou wert Sharu-Nada? And quote, if I had wealth equal to thine, I would live like a prince. Never across the hot desert would I ride. I would spend the shekels as fast as they came to my purse. I would wear the richest of robes and the rarest of jewels. That would be a life to my liking, a life worth living. And quote, both men laughed. And quote, thy grandfather wore no jewels. And quote, Sharu-Nada spoke before he thought, then continued jokingly, and quote, wouldst thou leave no time for work? And quote, work was made for slaves. And quote, Hardan Gula responded. Sharu-Nada bit his lip but made no reply, riding in silence until the trail led them to the slope. Here he reined his mount and, pointing to the green valley far away, and quote, see, there is the valley. Look far down and thou canst faintly see the walls of Babylon. The tower is the temple of Bel. If thy eyes are sharp thou mayest even see the smoke from the eternal Re upon its crest. And quote, so that is Babylon. Always have I longed to see the wealthiest city in all the world. And quote, Hardan Gula commented. And quote, Babylon? Where my grandfather started his fortune. Would he were still alive. We would not be so sorely pressed. And quote, why wish his spirit to linger on earth beyond its allotted time? Thou and thy father can well carry on his good work. And quote, alas, of us, neither has his gift. Father and myself know not his secret for attracting the golden shekels. And quote, Sharu-Nada did not reply but gave rein to his mount and rode thoughtfully down the trail to the valley. Behind them followed the caravan in a cloud of reddish dust. Some time later they reached the king's highway and turned south through the irrigated farms. 3 old men plowing a eld caught Sharu-Nada's attention. They seemed strangely familiar. How ridiculous. One does not pass or eld after 40 years and ND. The same men plowing there. Yet, something within him said they were the same. One, within uncertain grip, held the plow. The others laboriously plodded beside the oxen, ineffectually beating them with their barrel staves to keep them pulling. 40 years ago he had envied these men. How gladly he would have exchanged places. But what a dire-errance now. With pride he looked back at his trailing caravan, well-chosen camels and donkeys, loaded high with valuable goods from Damascus. All this was but one of his possessions. He pointed to the plowers, saying, and quot, still plowing the same eld where they were 40 years ago, and quot, they look it, but why thinkest thou they are the same, and quot, I saw them there, and quot, Sharu Nada replied. Recollections were racing rapidly through his mind. Why could he not bury the past and live in the present? Then he saw, as in a picture, the smiling face of Arad Gula. The barrier between himself and the cynical youth beside him dissolved. But how could he help such a superior youth with his spendthrift ideas and bejeweled hands? Work he could owe in plenty to willing workers, but naught for men who considered themselves too good for work. Yet he owed it to Arad Gula to do something, not a half-hearted attempt. He and Arad Gula had never done things that way. They were not that sort of men. A plan came almost in a rush. There were objections. He must consider his own family and his own standing. It would be cruel, it would hurt. Being a man of quick decisions, he waived objections and decided to act. And quot, wouldst thou be interested in hearing how thy worthy grandfather and myself joined in the partnership which proved so pro-table, and quot, he questioned. And quot, why not just tell me how thou madest the golden shekels? That is all I need to know, and quot. The young man parried. Sharu Nada ignored the reply and continued, and quot, we start with those men plowing. I was no older than thou. As the column of men in which I marched approached, good old Megiddo, the farmer, scoed at the slipshod way in which they plowed. Megiddo was chained next to me. Look at the lazy fellows, he protested. The plowholder makes no ought to plow deep. Nor do the beaters keep the oxen in the furrow. How can they expect to raise a good crop with poor plowing? And quot, didst thou say Megiddo was chained to thee? And quot, Hurdan Gula asked in surprise. And quot, yes, with bronze collars about our necks and a length of heavy chain between us. Next to him was Zabado, the sheep thief. I had known him in Harun. At the end was a man we called Pirate because he told us not his name. We judged him a sailor as he had entwined serpents tattooed upon his chest in sailor fashion. The column was made up thus so the men could walk in fours, and quot, thou wert chained as a slave, and quot, Hurdan Gula asked incredulously. And quot, did not thy grandfather tell thee I was once a slave? And quot, he often spoke of thee but never hinted of this, and quot, he was a man thou couldst trust with innermost secrets. Thou, too, are a man I may trust. Am I not right? And quot, Sharu Nada looked him squarely in the eye. And quot, thou mayest rely upon my silence, but I am amazed. Tell me how didst thou come to be a slave? And quot, Sharu Nada shrugged his shoulders, and quot, any man may ND himself a slave. It was a gaming house and barley beer. That brought me disaster. I was the victim of my brother's indiscretions. In a brawl he killed his friend. I was bonded to the widow by my father, desperate to keep my brother from being prosecuted under the law. When my father could not raise the silver to free me, she in anger sold me to the slave dealer, and quot, what a shame and injustice, and quot, Hurdan Gula protested. And quote, but tell me, how didst thou regain freedom? And quote, we shall come to that, but not yet. Let us continue my tale. As we passed, the plowers jeered at us. One did do his ragged hat and bow low, calling out, welcome to Babylon, guests of the king. He waits for thee on the city walls, where the banquet is spread, mud bricks and onion soup. With that they laughed uproariously. And quote, Pirate EW into a rage and cursed them roundly. What do those men mean by the king awaiting us on the walls? I asked him. And quote, to the city walls ye march to carry bricks until the back breaks. Maybe they beat thee to death before it breaks. They won't beat me. I'll kill M. And quote, then Megiddo spoke up, it doesn't make sense to me to talk of masters beating willing, hard-working slaves to death. Masters like good slaves and treat them well. Who wants to work hard? Commented Zabado. Those plowers are wise fellows. They're not breaking their backs, just letting on as if they be. And quote, thou can't get ahead by shirking, Megiddo protested. If thou plow a hectare, that's a good day's work and any master knows it. But when thou plow only a half, that's shirking. I don't shirk. I like to work and I like to do good work. For work is the best friend I've ever known. It has brought me all the good things I've had, my farm and cows and crops, everything. And quote, yea, and where be these things? Now, Skoed Zabado. I gur it pays better to be smart and get by without working. You watch. Zabado, if we're sold to the walls, he'll be carrying the water bag or some easy job when thou, who like to work, will be breaking thy back carrying bricks. He laughed his silly laugh. And quote, terror gripped me that night. I could not sleep. I crowded close to the guard rope, and when the others slept, I attracted the attention of Godoso, who was doing the RST guard watch. He was one of those brigand Arabs, the sort of rogue who, if he robbed thee of thy purse, would think he must also cut thy throat. And quote, tell me, Godoso, I whispered, when we get to Babylon will we be sold to the walls? Why want to know? He questioned cautiously. And quote, canst thou not understand? I pleaded. I am young. I want to live. I don't want to be worked or beaten to death on the walls. Is there any chance for me to get a good master? And quote, he whispered back. I tell something. Thou good fellow, give Godoso no trouble. Most times we go RST to slave market. Listen now, when buyers come, tell you good worker, like to work hard for good master. Make want to buy. You not make buy. Next day you carry brick. Mighty hard work. And quote, after he walked away, I lay in the warm sand, looking up at the stars and thinking about work. What Megiddo had said about it being his best friend made me wonder if it would be my best friend. Certainly it would be if it helped me out of this. And quote, when Megiddo awoke, I whispered my good news to him. It was our one ray of hope as we marched toward Babylon. Late in the afternoon we approached the walls and could see the lines of men, like black ants, climbing up and down the steep diagonal paths. As we drew closer, we were amazed at the thousands of men working. Some were digging in the moat, others mixed the dirt into mud bricks. The greatest number were carrying the bricks in large baskets up those steep trails to the masons. If you like our content, please like and subscribe for more videos.